Apparently, what is being expressed or suggested is in the apparent absence, the silence of silence, the death of death. There's not even nothing. And whatever comes up is not even that or anything at all. The apparent unthinkable occurring, but it should not be happening. The impossibility of separation is illuminated. All thoughts are silent, and silence is just a thought. All movements are still, and stillness is just movement. Duality is non-dual or not two, and non-dualism is dualistic. They're just words, they're just markers of either this or that. Since it cannot be separated, what is appearing is already this. Or even saying that this is all God, but there is no God. Nothing is real, but it appears as reality. But without the construct of the words and the thoughts that supports it, there is nothing real or unreal. What does that even mean without words? Without the influence of thoughts, there is no this, there's no this is it, there's not even a that or even a this. So everything that's ever uttered is just nonsense. But that's even a construct because there's no such thing as nonsense. Without the influence of a source or a reference, fear, doubt, shame, uncertainty, bliss, righteousness, joy are nothing but figments of imagination. But what's even an imagination without thoughts? So it just keeps on going back into this uncertainty because there's no one that knows or not know. So it's already known, but it's also not known. It just cannot be captured as an imagination or a thought or a construct because it's not constructed. And the reason that there seems to be a failing in trying to explain something that cannot be constructed or spoken about, because there is the system or the tool that's being used to construct a definition is a construct. It's quite stunning though, huh? Self or no self, me or no me are just all made up ideas by another idea. Ideas back up ideas, thoughts maintains thoughts, but it does not matter since all thoughts, words are all made up as a veil of separation to what? Can never be separated. So the veil is just a word again, right? So a veil is a word, a thought. There must be a veil. There must be something blocking this. There must be something missing. How do I get rid of the veil? And then someone will say a construct. There's a veil of separation of what is already. But it's quite obvious though, right? With the seeing that the words are the veils itself. The word veil is the veil itself. But it does not really mean anything because it's just a construct. So what can never be separated, even with the apparent mention that there's a veil, a thought, a transparent, invisible, non-existent structure, or an apparent obstacle, whatever cannot be talked about cannot be separated. So the veil is just nothing. So the separate idea of an individual is blinded by its own belief of its own reality, in its own seclusion, like being in a cave of echo, an echo chamber that has gone mad, right? It listens to echoes of words and everything, and it's just reverberating back and forth of echoes of infinite nothing. I can't even say that, it's just this idea, right? So there's this wordless wonder appearing as made up words by the echo that wants to maintain the echo is real. But it's just an echo. It doesn't mean anything. There's no reality to it. It's an echo of this infiniteness that cannot be talked about, which also means that the echo is infinite. It's also what is. So it doesn't have to be maintained because it's already what is. There's just an echo of an echo, an idea of an idea that the idea is not real, so it has to be real. So the longing for reality, since reality is a construct, since reality is an idea, since reality is just made up. So there's this seeming kind of like appearances of this appearing as this or that duality. But without the word duality, what's even duality? What's even non-duality? So this is like an implosion of all thoughts and ideas and words that makes up this reality, and this reality that has to be escaped or maintained or revealed. Since there's no reality, so it keeps on coming up with these versions of reality. Well, my reality would be if there's no me. The reality would be if there is a dropping away, or if this is nirvana of all my problems and everything. But it misses what is being just simply as it is without any word. The quietness of it all. The absence of everything in the absence of absence, in the silence of silence. The unspeakableness of what is, the unthinkableness of what seems. This is just all unspeakable silence, not by the way of knowing, because it cannot be known, but the unknowing of all that is made up. It's like solving a puzzle that cannot be solved and going like, oh, I can't solve this puzzle. And somebody points out that, well, the puzzle is that it cannot be solved. That's the puzzle. It is already what is. So there's really no puzzle then if it can't be solved. Well, that's just an idea of what cannot be solved because it's already done. So this unknowingness, these empty ideas, even if ideas come and go and everything, if you've seen that everything is just empty and free already, this brutal and fierce quietness, the silence that is louder than the made up words. It's like a reverse sonic boom, you know, that instead of going boom, it restores the sanity and the quietness of it all. What's the reverse of boom? Move. Nothing, right? It's just this, oh. And all of a sudden, there's a grasping of what is, right? You're like, okay, this must be empty fullness or whatever seems to appear. And again, there's nothing wrong or right about words because they're just dress-ups, ideas that creates a separation, but there's really no separation. So this brutal, fierce, loud quietness, right? It's the sanity that there is no two, because in silence, is there a separation? In the quietness of it all, is there you? In the absence of thoughts, is there seeking? Simply the case already. Case closed, the puzzle's done. It cannot be solved. Next. So it cannot be known because what is knowing is just noise. It's just seemingly obstacles. Every step that is taken, every movement that is made in trying to figure out something that cannot be figured out, it's like a veil made real, but there's really no veil. So in the directness of what's being talked about, what's a veil? In the directness of what's being talked about, what's a subject and object? In the intimacy, what's being talked about, what is separation? So this unspeakable, unthinkable, unfathomableness is the eternal pause. It's not influenced by or endorsed. You know, there's no validation of this pause. There's no authority to this pause. There's no gatekeeper to this pause. There's no mastery to this pause. There's not even a pause. But seemingly in this chatter of all of this seeking and all of this duplicitous ideas about what non-duality is, there's this open invitation to this silent pause that's infinitely happening, although there's nothing to pause. It can't even be talked about, but this pause, this the ta-da, right? That nothing needs to be figured out is already. And usually there's a madness. It's like, seeking is like insanity, right? It's like talking to echoes and maintaining the echoes is real, maintaining the shadows. It's 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 madness. It's madness. It's like schizophrenia. When that is also exposed as just this fierce silence that seems to be reverberating as echoes of how do I get there? What do I need to do? And it's just this narrative that keeps on happening. Then there's really nothing to think about. Again, there's nothing special or not special about what's being talked about here. It's already, it's not being held back. There's no one that is holding the tickets. There's no gate. There's no entrance fee. It's always available. And the availability of it is not in the exclusivity. It's not exclusive because it is free. Even the idea of what is free. So if you have any question, talk about free stuff, freedomness or whatever, please go ahead. Questions, sorry. I'll open up the chat. Sorry, just a second. Oh, I like what you said, non-dual duality. Yeah, they're just words, right? If you really look at words, it's just really, really silly and funny thing about words that they are completely meaningless. Like, for example, it seems to take a position, but that position can be flipped back. For example, if somebody says that, let's just use kind of like this is a teaching or no teaching, but you can also say that no teaching is a teaching. This position is not a position, but you can also say that that's a position. So it does not matter. It does not matter. There's no chooser. There's the illusory idea that there is choice that can be better or real, but there's really no chooser since there's no one choosing anyway, since everything is just the automaticness of what's appearing. It's just what is. It's amazing how you silence all the questions with your opening statements. Oh, thank you. Thank you. But please go ahead, make some noise. This way you explained that there are no veil rang home here some more. Yeah, because a veil, I was stuck with that. The character was so stuck, right? Because it was looking for, how do I drop, what's behind the veil? And I'll say something like, well, it's nothing behind the veil. But what's the veil then? There's no veil. There's no separation. Outside of an idea, is there a veil? Outside of thoughts, is there separation? If you've never heard of non-duality, is there separation? It's just what is. So it's free to appear as separate, although it can never be separated, but it is, whatever it is.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, iPhone.
I was thinking, like, the imagination always drummed up something. You drummed up heaven, you drummed up hell, you drummed up nirvana, you drummed up reincarnation. There was always something in the imagination, and there's nothing here. Yeah,
It's quite
there's
fascinating. It's all of this,
yeah,
imaginary acts, you know what I'm saying, of separation that creates this separateness, right? For example, the moment that there's heaven, then there's this idea that there is a heaven that needs to be reached, or salvation or redemption, or, nirvana. It's always a thought away.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's just nothing here.
Nothing. Yeah. And that's even saying way too much, right? Because it becomes another idea of what nothing is. But
Well,
in the absence, in the
yeah,
collapse of like,
I went through that.
yeah,
And no, it's not even that. It's
not even that. Yeah.
just kind of pushes you out of the chair onto the floor.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's like when there's nothing really left, right? Even nothing is also not left, right? As I mentioned, the absence of absence, right? The emptying of emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Could you unmute me?
Oh, sure.
I don't know how to.
No worries. Hi, Emerson. There was this one here hiding, as there was so much paranoia, but the position can no longer be held. There's only an imagination trying to hold it, yes, but by holding it, it holds and shapes. But it's already gone. Thank you so much for helping that to drop away. Yeah, it's just another thought, right? It's really quite revelatory that when there is, it's the seeming kind of like um what surrounds, you know what I'm saying, when something is dreamed up, when something is idealized, or something is thought of as something that's real. And it's a really flimsy idea, right? A reality, or because it misses that the making up of all of this is made up by a made up idea. So it's just this self-perpetuating, maintaining wordless wonder that appears as word, that keeps this idea that there is something to be feared of. If this is unfathomable, free to seem to be separate. Why? There's no reason at all. Again, trying to figure out, right? Because the unfathomable, or trying to know the unknowable, right? It's like, trying to solve a puzzle that's already been solved, and the puzzle is it can't be solved. So no, no amount of trying, no amount of trying to figure out. And when there is just this idea that what seems to be not separate is separate, what seems not to be not dual seems to be dualistic. What seems to be just infinite silence is chatter. When it's seen that equally, all of that is just the sameness, the blankness, the blank canvas that seems to appear out of nowhere, with no source, with no prior, and with no post. Rather than seeing the the seeing that does not have a subject and object and be bewildered by it, there's a questioning of how is this happening, which is also okay. Or not questioning it and just seeing it, blindly seeing it. The moment that the words seem to appear, or thoughts and ideas, it seems to create this veil that creates this blindness. In the absence of this, of words and ideas and thoughts and concepts, there's no veil. So seeing is just seeing. It doesn't have to be subject or object. The moment that the word breaks the silence of this unimaginable what isness, then it creates this separation of what this is. Then it creates a construct, right? Something that cannot be constructed. Again, all words that are appearing, all thoughts that are appearing are just, again, constructs, right? It's trying to construct to deconstruct, which is the same. It's speaking in silence. Hi, Emerson. I'm fascinated of all of this, the way that you approach these things. It's so clear and so profound. How do you do this? It's quite fascinating. If you can share, there's really nothing to do, right? So it's everything is already unknown. So it's seemingly, you know what I'm saying? It's just deconstructing everything that's known. And also expressing that that doesn't even matter too. It's just the peace in contentment of not being able to see or figure out this aliveness that is, for a lack of a better word, permanent. It's even hard to even say that because there's an idea that comes up. So this play of words, uh, I was talking to a musician, and we were talking about speaking non-duality. And I basically said that when I listen to a track, I listen to all of the parts of the track. I listen to the vocals, I listen to the drum beats, I listen to the bass line, and usually I chop it up and remix it. And when there is, and the way that you can like do a DJing thing is you listen for the silence in the music. So there is this this wholeness that's already happening in DJing. And there was and that's the way that this character speaks here. It deconstructs and constructs and remixes it with joy. That it's already the case, that it's already silence. So no matter how I would move the bass line and isolate the vocals, there's always silence. So the construct we are trying to deconstruct is everything is an idea. Even deconstruction, construction is all nothing but an idea. Everything is an idea that seems to come up, that pop up. It's like, oh, I have an idea. Even I have no idea is an idea. I'm out of ideas is an idea. It's just really simple when it's seen from a non-separateness lens, meaning that in the absence of words. So when the words show up or arises and everything, okay, it doesn't need to be figured out, but it's just obviously a construct for no one. It's like, when there is a dream that happens at night, obviously it's not for anyone. When the dream seemingly finishes and there's just this remnants of what seems to appear as a story about the dream. What was that again? I was dreaming, but it was really nothing. A deconstructed construct. Were you a puzzle solver? Yes, when I was a kid. Yeah. I tried to always try to figure out what seems to be happening. And yeah, when I was a little kid, there was this trying to deconstruct a TV set. I don't know if you remember those console TV set on the floor from the 70s. Do you remember that, Steve? So the construct, the idea, the silence are the same. Yes. Bingo. The construct, the idea, the silence, reality, permanence, everything that can be mentioned is the same. There's really no separation aside from the idea or the construct that there's a separation. But since the construct is just a construct of separation, there is really no construct aside. There's no really separation aside from a constructed idea of what separation is. There is seeming like a positioning, right? Or is this the right one? Did I do the right path and everything? So both are constructs. This or that, and whatever seems to appear is a construct. But there's no constructor because a constructor is also a construct. There's no builder. There's no creator because that's also a construct. Whatever it is not an idea. Whatever is trying to be expressed cannot be thought about. It cannot be imagined. Meaning it's infinite. It's changeless. Hi, Emerson, I know you don't talk about this, but is it aware? That's just another idea, right? That's just another construct. Any qualities, any ideas, any kind of, even the word all-encompassing, although these words are used and everything, are constructs. of something that cannot be figured out. Even it cannot be figured out is a construct. Again, in the absence of the veil of words, when there's no veils, no words, no thoughts, there's no such thing as a construct or reality. There's no such thing as real or not real.
Emerson?
Hello. Hi.
Hi. What would you equate stillness?
Just another word, right? It's and these words will have different meanings, right? Meaning they're empty and free. You can insert whatever you think of stillness, right? Because you can say that stillness is that place of, serenity and everything. And then someone will say that it's not a place because it's stillness. That kind of thing, right? Or someone from a Buddhist, or just different. So the construct of word creates this imagination of separation. It creates this imagined veil, right? Because when it's expressed that this is just stillness, so the stillness will land at, there are really no others. This is just a story, right? It will land with different perceptions. So from one character will be like, oh yes. The other character is like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see stillness here, right? So so that's, again, it's like echoes bouncing back and forth. It's really nothing, right? But the echoes will seem like, well, this is reality. And someone will say, well, that's a Buddhist concept. Someone will say that, is it the capital S stillness or the lower S stillness? So there's going to be varying degrees of this. It's like a backing up of this construction of this apparent idea as reality.
Would you say, even though I know it's a construct, like when you used a few seconds ago, changeless?
Yeah, that's another construct. Yeah.
But
Because
change,
if you look at the nature of words, right, there's always going to be duplicitous, right? So when you say changeless, there's also changing. When
right?
you say it has an opposite, but if you really bounce it back together, it's the same. Just depending on the idea of it. So there's really no solidity in words, right?
Yeah, even
Yeah.
though you can.
Because
Yeah,
solidity is just a word, right? So it just keeps on going back into construct, imagine, made up. It's just, it keeps on making it up. Just like thoughts.
yeah. Okay, I try to figure out what I'm trying to say, because I know you didn't get what I'm trying to mean, because I don't know what I'm trying to mean either.
Okay. Yeah.
Really,
Perfect example there. See?
I don't. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So there is nothing, but not really nothing. Yeah. And you can't even say that, right? Because that's just another construct, right? It will just keep on going. It will just going infinitely, right? This idea. So like, for example, we'll say that, so there is nothing, but not really nothing, not even not nothing. And then some will say not even not nothing or whatever, right? It will just keep on going. Quote by UG Krishnamurti: the moment you figure out what I am, you destroy me. There's no mind, self other than what we are doing to free ourselves from the mind self. Buddhism talks about the goal is no mind self, but has endless techniques as to how to achieve it. Yeah, it's funny, right? To utilize the mind to get rid of the mind is still the mind, right? A no mind is a mind construct. That's what I mean. Mind, no mind, the same. It's still of the mind. Illusion, no illusion is still an illusion. Self, no self is made up by a self. So all the way down, it's all made up, right? Me, no me, it's all made up. Truth, it's all made up. And the obviousness of it is that the seeing that it's made up is because the made up is seeing that it's all made up. So there's no separation. There are no aha moments. Aside from an idea that it's an aha moment. Oh, okay. So can you say that the mind, no self, no self, is a construct by authority? Authority is even made up. There's really no authority. That's the fun thing. There's really no authority aside from an idea that there's an authority. Could you talk about not? Could you talk about not reality? I guess this is a place where the illusory one here still hides. Needs a reality, makes itself real when it reaches it. It's funny that's mentioned because the reality is a perceived idea by the unreal to make it real, right? So it longs for reality, but there is no reality. So it's already the case. It will never find reality because the reality that it seems to be hiding in is full of plot holes, because it does not need to make itself real, because there's no such thing as real aside from a construct. So reality is a construct. Reality is a construct constructed by the illusory one to create or make up real reality by being real, which is also made up. You can also say that all thoughts are empty. There's nothing to understand since the only instrument of understanding is thought. Yes, there is no self-realization, truth, reality, etc., etc. Whereas the mind we're trying to study, understand, or change, there is no mind. Thank you, Leela. Yes, it's all of this is the spirituality is mind stuff. Even no mind is mind stuff. So everything that is learned or trying to figure out is all mind stuff. But the trick is there's really no mind to figure out. I used to do all of this sutras, saying studying about the mind. How do you quiet the mind? How do you stop the fluctuations of the mind? How do you purify the mind? How do you lose the mind? How do you blow the mind? The mind-blowing thing is that there's no mind to blow. I really like that, Leela. The only instrument of understanding is thought. Yeah.
That's grand. Sure. Thank you. Get there.
Oh, hi, John. Hey. I can't hear you though, John. Do you have some internet stuff? I'll get to you, John. I spent, this is from the chat from Lila, I spent the last hour on a neuroscience lecture talking about the brain and how to predict control human behavior. There are research protocols and results, but no mind. Only stimulus and response with no one doing it. Yes. It's quite fascinating that, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That song keeps on coming back. Where is my mind by the Pixies from the 90s. That must have been a fascinating talk there, Leela. No, that's the thing. I talked to neuroscientists too. It's going in circles, right? Because that propels the search, right? Is just propels it. So it's a never-ending research. Hey, John, I hear you. Hey, Steve.
Hi, Emerson.
Hello.
So each thought as it arises deconstructs itself.
It's
But
not
even
real.
that-
Yeah, it doesn't have any reality, right? So it just appears and disappears, right? It's an illusion. It's like an echo, right? An echo appears, and echo, and it's not nothing.
And then another one comes up and says, "Oh,
Yeah.
I see that's what's going on."
See, but there's no
Except
another
that
one that comes up.
itself,
See,
that
that's the
itself-
trick though, right? There's really no
that
another one
itself
that comes up.
disappears. Right.
It's just a thought that another one comes up, right? But it's
So
just,
then,
yeah,
so then you say, "Oh, well, that's just this,"
yeah,
until it's not.
yeah. But this and not are also constructs, right? It's just another
Right.
idea. Yeah. So it's and then seemingly, right? And there's just a so whatness, right? Because it's like, it's kind of like, when you're trying to figure out a puzzle and, you're the kind of character that finishes puzzles and someone tells you, well, the puzzle is that it cannot be solved. So that's it. You've solved the puzzle. I'm like, okay, all right. That's basically it, right?
But still,
Yeah.
the next moment, there's another moment, which doesn't exist.
Yeah. But does not, it not really exist or exist? It doesn't, there's really no way of knowing, because outside of knowing, does existence or non-existence even appears or disappears?
Doesn't, or
It's
does.
just another idea of what is, right? It's just it's just another construct.
And it's all happening or not happening simultaneously.
And that's just another idea, right? But it's trying to express something that cannot be expressed, right? Because it's seemingly when there is the wheels of the apparent thinking kind of like stops, you're like, I can't think simultaneously with what's happening and everything. But before long, you know what I'm saying? Because there is this adaptability of this make-upness and everything, right? It imagines it. You're like, okay, I get that this is simultaneously happening. No. So it creates a construct and makes it into reality to maintain its reality. Just like the word nothing, right? The word nothing becomes an idea now. Oh, this is nothing. Yes, I get it. I get that this is nothing. No, there's no way of getting it, because getting it is a construct. It's all the way down turtles, right? It's all made up.
It's a giant shrug.
Yeah, but it's not even that, right? It's just, you can't surrender to it because there's no one to surrender.
Right.
Yeah, not even that, right? It's like, well, I surrender. No, there's no one to surrender. Who are you surrendering to? Because there's no duality. So the thinking, it only runs in duality. The moment that the thought comes, that's dualistic, right? I got it. No. But it's very, very hidden, right? Because there is like, well, there's, it's just even talking is duality. The word
Right.
I is dualistic.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. It's like if you put the plant near the sun, it will grow toward it. But if you put positive electrode over the brain, it will fire with electrical burst. But I decided to take the place the electrode there. The neuroscientist says, what is causing the neuron to fire in the neuroscientist's brain? They have no clue. Yeah. It's like figuring out something that cannot be figured out. All thoughts are neutral. Yeah. But neutral is just another idea. It's just another construct, right? So you can say that all thoughts are ... to infinity. You can also say that there are no thoughts because they're all construct. See how it just kind of like swirls around? Like, it's like, it's just this, is it real and real? It never stops constructing and deconstructing, but that's also an idea. So when it's seen that it's all an idea, all of these thoughts seemingly coming in and out, right? It's like, it's just what is. Oh, I'm sniffing out a moneymaker Christmas non-duality puzzle. You can call the puzzle. You will never get this puzzle. Another one will be already the case puzzle. Hey, Emerson, do you have any ideas? It's just all ideas. So the Emerson is an idea. The question that the Emerson has any ideas is an idea. But ideas are just that, a construct. So there are really no ideas if it's a construct. But that's just another idea. See what I did there? Hi, Emerson. I like coming to these meetings. It seems like after I leave these meetings, I feel lighter and lighter and lighter. Yesterday, after the first two sessions, I felt like I was flying. Is that also a construct? Unfortunately, yes. But there seems to be an unraveling of all of the ideas that are usually maintained as real or not real. There's usually kind of like a hoarding of all of these belief systems or thoughts about something that is kind of like the precious kind of like ideas. So when there is a spiraling down of all of this as simply empty and free, then there is a like a lightness to it, that there's no real meaning to anything. Can you describe at all what it's like to live knowing yet knowing nothing? I can't really describe it, right? Because it's then it creates this narrative that there is knowing, that there's a knower, that there's an experiencer, right? So I can describe it in story form. I can make it up, so to speak, right? Because the idea is going to tell you about an idea to an idea that maintains the idea that there is a knowing nothing, which is just an idea. So it's pointless. There's an easiness, and this is just a narrative that there's nothing that needs to be known, that there's nothing needed. There is this seeming kind of like a relief that there's no more sniffing or looking, spiraling out and figuring out and everything, that there's nothing to unravel anymore because it's all nothing. There is this undivided and unconditional liberation, that it's free. It does not have to abide in any rules or to be or to construct an identity. It's just what is. So yeah, there's this freedom. There's freedom to speak like no one is listening, to speak freely, you know what I'm saying, without any constructed ideas of what it should be. But that's all made up. It's really nothing. I saw Artifice Girl last night. Great movie. I like an AI, we are silent and empty until something prompts a response. Then the AI figures out a response by using memory banks of info and mathematical problems. The movie is about a sentience, feelings, but isn't an embodied AI the same as this disembodied AI? Sensations are meaningless stimulus eliciting a mechanical response. Attach a thought story and it's called the human emotion. What do you think? Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's the movie's quite fascinating because it posits the idea when an AI becomes a super AI intelligence, that it's independent and seemingly kind of like, but it has a protocol, so to speak, right? And that protocol is followed, but for a purpose or meaning. At the end of the at the revelation at the end of the movie, that purpose or meaning as a burden, is a chain. So when there's a purpose or meaning, there's going to be a separate idea of there is, and at the end of it, I really like that the AI just went dancing. Watch it, it's quite good. But yeah, yours is actually great there, Leela. I like that. And the shackles of meaning and purpose. I also like that it creates this expression that emotions are all made up, or happiness and all that kind of stuff are all constructs. It can be constructed artificially. Hi, Emerson. Can you talk about liberation? Um, so the idea, the construct of liberation is something that needs to be attained, right? So that's the idea that there's something that needs to be liberated, that there's something that needs to be freed. So the liberation actually is seemingly an illusory idea that there is an attainment, a freeing, a next. But what's being expressed here is that there's neither liberation or it's just it's all, everything is liberation. So that's why there's really no opposites, because it's a constructed oppositeness, right? It's just what is. There's nothing that needs to be liberated because everything is already liberated, but not for a constructed idea of someone or individual liberation. Yes, ones and zeros, duality, AI and human, no difference. Constructed reality, just like AI, artificial intelligence, empty fullness, nothing, everything. Virtual reality, these seeming positions, right? But they're all constructs. It's love is 100010110. That's the that's the sequence. I'm just joking. Love, when it's thought about, is a construct. In the absence of thoughts, it's unconditional. But since there are no thoughts, it's always unconditional, no matter what. Oh, sorry. The Turing test is when a machine passes for its human programmer. It's a non-starter because the human programmer is not human. What say you? Then mathematics too never got to that. Again, it's just this never-ending cyclical appearances, right? Of this or that, right? There's no such thing as human. It's just another construct, right? So a construct to construct, it's human or not human is just another construct. In the absence of authorities or, what it should be, then what's even that? Hi, Emerson. You seem to mention authority a lot. How are you growing up? Were you afraid of authorities? No, not really. You know what? It's funny, right? Because there was this seemingly the character was a Catholic, schoolboy that, was respected authority and everything, even in spirituality, respected that. But this unconditional freedom, when there's no authority, there is this explosion of just expression, and this unconditional freedom, not as dictated by someone, but without any reference, without any source, without any author. So simply what is appearing is as it is already. Leela goes, I am a human is more of a sacred cow than God. Yeah. And that's one of the things, right? The I am real, right? If you listen to what people, the narrative of their belief systems, right? It stems from that I am human, I am real. It's the reality is constructed from that point of view. And that kind of like when you do an AI, right? When there is it supports it in a very instantaneous ways, right? And that's what it is. It's just artificial knowing, artificial belief, artificial understanding, artificial words, artificial narrative coming from a made up or an artificial thought. In the story, I am human is the more sacred cow and God is the backup plan.
Hi, Emerson.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Oh, never mind. I know you would blah, 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 allergies, but anyway, I just thought, like, you're not there. Oh, it's so funny.
What a
I'm not.
funny idea.
It's hysterical. I mean, what why
Yeah.
people are always laughing? Okay, you're not there. So in your day-to-day interactions, it's just response.
There's really nothing special, right? It's there's this narrative that there is just this everything is a story, including this, right? So there is just an apparent appearance of things happening that are not. There's an appearance of doing when nothing is being done. There's an appearance of, it's just appearances. It's just appearances, right? So it's just narratives. It's just constructs. So even talking about it is another construct. So it's just this multiplicities of this constructed idea of something that's not.
Oh, so then there's still so it's then you are still responding in the construct of verbiage or whatever. It's not.
It's just a construct.
See,
yeah.
I'm thinking nobody's there. There's just a cutoff and there's response. You understand what I'm trying to say?
That's what it is happening there too, apparently, right? There's really no one there, but there seems to be a a cause and effect or response. But the thought about that there's someone responding is the narrative that there is someone, which is just a construct.
Yeah, but
So
it's
there's
without
really no
all
difference.
the, it's without all the frills.
Yeah, without all of the chatterbox, right? Without
The emotional,
all of the,
all that
without
stuff.
all the commentaries of what seems to
Yeah,
be happening.
yeah.
But that's also a construct.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We are trained to believe that we are special species created for a specific and grand purpose. Our humanity dictates the whole of creation was created for our benefit. This is the most ecological disaster and our abuse of the creatures and the natural world. Yeah, because it's the grandiousness of this apparent appearance, right? As the ultimate kind of like appearance with a grand purpose, right? Is this grandioseness that appears dismisses the appearance of equal appearances, right? Although everything is just an appearance, there's equality in everything. There's no less and there's no more, but the idea that there is a grand design or purpose is what seems to create this apparent suffering, which is also a construct. But thank you for that question. Hey, Kelsey. I can't hear you though.
You can't hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Hey, yeah, it's the topic of concepts is so interesting, and I think sorry, I just got a text. Like just seeing everything as a story, like it's almost what seems to take away the importance of one story over the other.
Yes.
And it just equalizes.
And that's the piece that seems to appear, right? When there's just no more importance, right? But go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, I'm listening. Go. No, please.
Yeah. And when there's this positioning, right? Especially when there's held on to beliefs and everything, right? So there is a seeming kind of like a held on to like a heaviness to it, because there is this belief that seems to maintain the reality of the believer. But if you really look at it, the believer and the belief are concepts. They're just structures, right? So when that structure is heavily guarded, right? And then there's this positioning. So all words, you know what I'm saying, are just really empty and free. But when there is a suggestion that they're loaded, right? For example, when someone is maintaining the position that I am reality, the same position as there's no me, you know what I'm saying? kind of like, when that's maintained. But when there is just an easiness to it, that it's just, when there is a disclaimer, right? Because there's, communicating about this is conceptual, right? There's no way out of it. So when there's disclaimer that everything is just apparently, this talk doesn't really have any meaning, this communication does not really offer anything, the statements here are irrelevant. It's all irrelevant, right? There's just this, there is this the moment that there is a capturing, right, of a concept, right? For example, if someone says that whatever, something profound, like give me something profound. Someone that can like creates this kind of like holding on to that.
Yeah, there's nothing to screenshot here.
Yeah.
Like
So,
I get nothing from this. It's
yeah.
so interesting.
So when there is just this openness, this transparency, right? That it's already the case, right? So no matter what is presented as something that's important or something that is a narrative that is significant, right? When it's stripped apart of its personality, when it's basically exposed as just words or concepts or ideas or construct, then the heaviness or the magnitude of that idea is light. You're like, oh, okay, right? Because there is this, there's this kind of like when I do those kind of like openings, when it's just laid out there that all of these are just concepts and thoughts and everything, neither more, less or more, because those are just ideas. So when there's a flattening of all of this, right? When there is kind of like almost like pulling the cord of the budding kind of like belief system that wants to make this as an ownership. So when the concepts are not owned, it's just that. When everything that is made up is not personalized, it's just that. But when there is a makeup, it's kind of like when there is a belief, when there's a truth held onto that, because this is my belief, right? So there's a position now, right? This is my belief, and I'm holding on to this and everything. So the apparent character is caught up in a concept now.
It's interesting how the belief that a concept is real or the truth
Yeah.
is what creates this seeming separation.
It does. Yeah, it
It's
does.
interesting.
I guess when everything is muted, there's nothing really separate. When everything is just, in the quietness of it all, what's even being said is it true or real? There's even a communication happening? It's unthinkable. Yeah.
And I guess in the story, there were all these concepts held on to that did create a lot of
Yeah.
suffering, like concepts like karma, like
Yeah.
source. And when it was all just seen as a story, it just equalized everything. There was no longer any specialness to it. There was no truth to it. There was no weight.
No, yeah. It loses its flavor, you know what I'm saying? It loses its potentiality of importance or no importance. So it reveals, you know what I'm saying, the equanimity of everything. Because when there's a concept of wrong or right or doing or karma or anything, you know what I'm saying, that positions itself as truth. Like someone will say karma is real, right? Or what else? There's so many things that are
There's
just
so many.
there's so many things, right? Life is what you make it, that kind of thing, right? Or anything at all, right? So so when that is held onto as a belief system, it becomes its identity. And because that creates the reality of something that's made up, like an identity, then the belief becomes the identity, and the setup, the made up identity or the character is the belief system. That's why when there is characters that are really hell-bent on really kind of like hell-bent on their belief system, for example, awareness or consciousness or the source or something, right? There's not even a point in communicating because that's their identity. That's who they think they are. So when it's being challenged, right? So their position is that there is something wrong with you because of your ideas. But both are ideas, right?
Yeah. It's the same. Yeah.
But my idea is right. I am right and you are wrong, right? The
Yeah.
only thing that this character can do when these ideas seems to appear is expose all of them as ideas. There's no one choosing to do any of it. There's no agenda really. Everything is conceptual ideas, thoughts that are made up.
But even exposing everything as ideas.
It's also an
right?
idea. There you go. Yeah,
Well,
it's just another thought. Yeah.
Well, that wasn't what I was going to say.
Oh,
But
sorry.
I also agree. But, it can be triggering, you
It
know.
does. Oh
And
my goodness.
it's strange because it's so neutral.
Yeah.
Like when it's seen that everything is an illusion,
Yeah.
it becomes so neutral.
Yeah.
But the holding on and
Oh yeah.
the character believing that these beliefs is who they are.
Well, the moment that there is that I believe I'm true, that's a firm affirmation of separation.
Yeah, it's
That
interesting.
you're wrong, I am right, right? So again, you know what, arguing with characters about non-duality or whatever, right, is really a moot point here because there's really nothing to argue about, right? Because it's just, so what, right? If that seems to be your position, that's also it.
Well, is that what makes this message uncompromising? Like I've
Yeah,
been
it
thinking
doesn't
about
really,
that. Like what
it's
makes
that's
this
just another
message?
idea, right? If you're
Yeah.
there's really no non-duality because non-duality is just another idea. Everything that has ever been brought up and everything thought of is just another concept, right? So the concept that there's no two is really kind of like with this communication, right? It uncompromises it. The compromising it basically that there's no two is still another idea, right? But there is sincerity, you know what I'm saying, in this what's being expressed here. So it
'Cause I
doesn't
hear, like,
sugarcoat, it doesn't create this illusion of something to get next, or it's not delusional basically.
yeah, the
Yeah.
delusion. But like I hear non-duality speakers say that a lot, uncompromising message.
Yeah, that's
Like, where
just
did that come
another
from?
identification, right, of something that cannot really be identified, right? And there's really no one choosing that, right? It's just what
Yeah.
is. It's just what is. There's a seeming understanding of what non-duality is, which is problematic right away because uh, how
Sometimes
can
there
there
is
be
too.
an understanding when there's no two? So
But would
seemingly
you
when
say
there
like
is,
sometimes there is too?
yeah.
Like also,
Yeah, that's also it. It's also it, right? So there's really no position here. There's like, okay, yes, so what, kind of like thing, right? So yes, you can achieve it. You can attain this, um, and again, every single thought that appears about non-duality already uh, already creates this illusion of separateness, right? Because there's no such thing as non-duality. So the moment that someone mentions non-duality, that's already duality.
yeah, so
Yeah.
interesting. Even
Yeah.
the concept of equanimity
That's just
is
another one. Yeah,
is
because there's really nothing
impossible.
to
It's like
equalize, right?
what is that?
Yeah,
What is that, right? Like
yeah.
sometimes it's like when I used to practice observing equanimity,
Oh, yeah.
and it got so crazy because it's like, well, what is that? Like there's no way to define it
Yeah. It's
because it could
almost
be
like
anything.
it's almost like insanity, right? Because you're trying to find equanimity, but there's really no you trying. And then Eri just
Yeah.
wrote down radical non-duality. There's no one, no method, no teacher, right? So there's no method on reaching something that's also a construct. So it's basically like, looking for words, you know what I'm saying, it's just seeking for words, right? So it's a made up is looking to make up equanimity as an idea. So yeah, so it cannot be instructed, right? It cannot be and that's also just a thought. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times. Good times. How's Wasaga? Is there a lot of people in Wasaga
Yeah.
because of the Canadian holiday? Nice.
Yeah, it gets crazy. There was the fireworks last night.
Yeah.
And it's so nice because they do it on the beach.
Oh yeah.
And you can get
Yeah.
so close.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
That's
wild.
awesome. I haven't been to Wasaga in like I don't know how long, but
You have to come.
yeah.
Yeah.
Before the summer's over. All
I mean,
right.
it's nothing special, but it's cool.
It's Wasaga Beach, you know.
It's a big beach, yeah.
When I was a teenager, that was the ultimate party place.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like a very young party place. Like,
Yeah.
it's not really my
Yeah,
scene, but it's fun to bike by and just like see all the aliveness and
that's right.
all the young kids.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Emerson.
Thank you. Question. It's this sincerity that makes it so hopeless and frustrating for this one, but it's so appreciated for its sincerity. No space for dreaming. Yeah, it's a sincerity of communicating that it's hopeless. There was a hope maker, you know, when there is a teacher or a method or a teaching, right? There's something that I can teach you for liberation, but it's operating in this apparent framework of a dream of separation. So it reasserts the separation by maintaining that there's something that can be done. But that's also what is. There's nothing wrong or right about that. Compassion, said Ari. Yeah, thank you. Just a second, my battery. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Emerson, can you hear me? Emerson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Because I said, when I was just thinking, I said, when you go to talk to those monks, it must be fitting in the wind.
I just don't know what to expect with those talks. It's kind of funny. It's just
Telling them their beliefs or concepts. Jesus Christ.
Maybe that's why it's called radical, right?
Uncompromising.
and this actually apparent kind of like meeting was inspired by that, because it's everything is basically a large belief system of knowledge, right? So it's like a library of knowledge that they present, and there is this seeming kind of like, okay, this is the knowing is the oppositeness that seems to create this idea of what is true, right? So this is almost like an unknowing of the truth that's held onto as a belief system. So it can be really triggering. You know, people usually walk out, and then come back and walk out, and
Yeah. Sure. Triggering.
it's a lot of uneasiness when this is heard, right? It's like, oh, but yeah. But somehow this talk is attractive to a lot of apparent characters, like, in monasteries that are seeing the hopelessness of it all. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're already got a foot in the door. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Some of them anyway, right? Yeah.
Got it. Otherwise, I'm like, you're setting yourself up for
there was an invitation, right? So it's not like, it's not like being a door-to-door salesman Would you like to hear about nothing?
Africa.
Like a Mormon, kind of like, hi, I would like to talk to you about nothing. It's
Once
not
they come
nothing
to
like
the
that.
door all the time and you pretend you're not home. You forget what group that is.
Yeah, so there's what do you call it? The easiness of it is that there is no expectations for this to be believed or perceived or accepted. There is no agenda, you know what I'm saying? It's just a talk, right? So there's nothing that's being forced upon. It's not an insistence of something, but it's just basically an expression that everything is already this. And this is made up.
I guess you're gonna have to make a
Simple.
lot of trips back and forth.
Oh, the Q&A portion are nuts sometimes, right? So we've had this rule that let him speak a bit, and then you know what, because everybody can like wants to attack or persevere, right? You know what they think what is. And so it's just a noisy kind of like almost like a declaration of their faith in what they believe in and everything. But yeah, it's fun. There's a lot of rejection of it, which makes it more fun.
Yeah.
And then usually the sweetness of that laughter that usually erupts once in a while, when there is kind of like, oh,
Light bulb.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank
Funny.
you.
Funny.
When can we hear the audio of Emerson among the Buddhists? I'll ask again, right? I don't really push to record it because I think that there's a lot of controversy happening in one of the monastery but I'll ask again. Yeah. It's actually quite fascinating, but it's very similar, right? It's positions after position. It's the same with non-duality, right? The apparent characters will have a position that it's almost like they're holding their trump card, right? And they're like, how about this? That kind of thing. And then when it's seen, well, that's really nothing. And they're like, no, it's not nothing, and in any position, right? Any kind of, and it appears in everything. It doesn't matter. There's going to be some apparent characters in applied non-duality, radical non-duality, that would have a position, and that position is the hidden idea that I am real, although there is a declaration that I'm not, right? So it's the belief system. The moment that the apparent belief in a concept or an idea, and it seemingly takes over, then it's almost like this cult mentality that it cannot be challenged. Yeah. There seems to be a jumping back and forth with the attention to gather all that is into one timeless seeing of just this. All sensations and thoughts, this is too much, too chaotic, not clear, because it wants a perception of what it perceives as what is. So it creates this narrative or this construct of what it should be by rejecting what is already. So it creates this veil of like, okay, well, this is not it, or I want to put all of this into one timeless seeing of just this. It negotiates to maintain its reality, because when it negotiates, or it appears to have choices or preferences, then it maintains its reality. It maintains that there is a positioning, or there is a preference, or there is something that needs to happen. But that's all made up. That's all a construct as well. It's just what is. Yeah, because there's even the word this becomes becomes an idea, right? So it's kind of like it becomes another kind of like language that has been secured as ideal, or as a belief that will result in liberation or attainment. but when it cannot seem to grasp it, then it creates a definition as too much or too chaotic or not clear. It's not an understanding. It's not a position. It's not a quality. It's the absence of all of that. This is basically a word that the absence, but that's just another idea. So it's in the absence of absence is this.
In the
I'm just going to grab a glass of water. I'll be right back. If anyone wants to speak, just speak. It doesn't matter.
You're gonna try. What did Yuri say? You know what Yuri just said. Trying to know the unknowable when there is no know. Trying to know unknowable when there is no knowable. Trying to know the unknowable when there is no knowable. That's funny. What else?
Welcome back. Well, trying to know unknowable when there is no knower. It's yes, that's what it is, right? Because it is very the obviousness of it is that it's not obvious for anyone, and the clarity of it, it's just not clear for anyone. It's just clear without any input or without any ideas. It's just clear that it's simply, it can't even be talked about, right? So the complexity of it is trying to figure out something that cannot be. It's that, like when usually someone announces, there's nothing to see here, folks, go home. Guess what usually happens? What's happening, Hello.
I don't think that the individual can exist without concepts.
Yeah, there's no individual without concepts. It's dead on arrival, right? Without any kind of again, in the when everything's muted, in the absence of absence, and that's just a concept as well. When there is just this absence, what's an individual? What separation? What is this? All of that cannot be answered because it's already answered. But
wish
the idea cannot, the concept will not grasp that, right? Because it can only play in concepts, or it will conceptualize what silence is, or the unknowable. It becomes this new toy, a new non-conceptual concept, which is also a concept, by the way. There's no way out of it, right? There's no way out of it, of trying to figure out or trying to get and everything, because it's just all concepts, right? And there's nothing that can be done. It's like, it's just what is. Again, all of these words are even complexities of what is. They're like, what is? It doesn't really mean anything. It's just what is. Or as it is. They're like, what does that mean? Can you describe to me in a dissertation of what is? It's very simple. Yeah. I like to answer that question. Did you read that one? It feels like when you say that it cannot be figured out, that there's like this brainwashing, almost like you're trying to convince me not to look for this by repeating over and over, it cannot be figured out. It's the sincerity of it. It might appear as trying to dislodge a belief system, you know what I'm saying? But it's not even, it's not, it's, if it's triggering something that is not, and this will sound kind of like horrible and everything, Cheryl. It's not trying to convince you, because it's already the case. So when there's a reaction to that, there's a positioning that there's a need to convince, or there is that there's something that I can figure out. But the expression is just saying that there's nothing to figure out, because there's no you to figure out. And the you that will figure out will just be another illusion of what cannot be figured out. So I can see how that appears. Yeah. Yeah. Similarly, when I was seeking, when I hear that there's nothing to get, I'm like, well, how do I get nothing to get? It creates this, because it wants to maintain the narrative. Without the me in the conversation, it doesn't exist. Without the kind of like, what do you call that? Without putting itself in the picture of what is, then it's irrelevant. So it creates this relevance by reacting, a made up reaction to something that cannot be figured out. As if there's something wrong with me, as if there's something missing. But yeah. Thank you, Kelsey. Sorry. A second here. No one is in the know. There's this idea that there is someone that became no one, and when someone becomes a no one, then they have all the answers by being a no one, which does not make sense. Because the idea of a no one is just another made up concept, right? Equally as there is a me and there's no me are equal ideas. And what's usually heard is usually selective hearing, right? There's a selective hearing, when what's being communicated. For example, they're saying that there's no one here, but it misses that there's a disclaimer. Apparently, there's no one here. It becomes it becomes a statement, right? What seems to be appearing is this, so it's just suggestions, because there's no one that's trying to be convinced or made believe that there is really no one here, because belief is just another construct. Of course, if there's no one here, then there's really no one believing as well that there's no one here. It's just what is. There's just nothing behind anything, right? So when there is a seeming And this is just a story again, seeing that there's really no one behind everything, not a no one as an idea, but the absence of all ideas, because all that idea comes from this illusory appearance of a separate me. So when that's seen as artificial, meaning it's not real, then everything that it perceives, everything. So there's really no one, but that's just another appearance or a thought. It can't be described. It can't be described, right? So in probably the same sentence, there's no one here, and the speaker will say, but no one knows that. It's unknowable. This cannot be described. So it creates, it picks this statement, and it becomes its belief. By doing a belief, then it maintains what is not already there. See how tricky it is, right? So if there's like, oh, I will listen to this, they say that there's no one, but the one that's hearing that is maintaining the narrative that there's someone to become a no one. Again, it's just what is. There's nothing wrong or right about that as well. But yeah. Hello, Emerson. I really liked the meeting yesterday. Would you be releasing that? I'll probably release a couple. Which one? The first one is kind of funny because I had a lot of medication and I was so thirsty. I was having some severe allergic reactions, but it was fun. But yeah, I will. Thank you. Thank you. I got a lot of, well, a few, not a lot, but a lot of letters appreciating that first talk. It was the medication talking. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Cheryl and Mary Faye. Thank you for doing this despite having allergy. It's actually really funny. This is just a story, right? I forgot that it's a holiday in Canada, so I booked this maybe a month ago. If there was no meeting, I would probably be outside with my brothers in a cottage, and probably there'll be a lot of allergic reactions apparently at the cottage. So thank you. Is there, yes, there's going to be karaoke tonight. It's going to be a lot of 90s. The last time we did a lot of 90s power ballads. So think like, you know, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, maybe some classic rock ballads. Sure. I want to hear Petra sing. If it's not too late for you there. Is it? Yeah, yeah, I know. Can I read it though? It's a really good one. Yeah. Okay. So I'll read this one. So this is from it's a fun thing from Ere. Had 2-hour-long meetings with someone very spiritual, religious communication from here was very direct that it can't be get as there is no one, etc. And he was still asking questions that it can do get it. I said many times you can't do nothing. He was thinking and said, seriously? Okay, then I try to do nothing. So again, you know what I'm saying? The that hidden agenda of that belief system that I am real is creating this, that there is a that I can do this, that I can attain this, and it just creates this narrative that there's something that I can do, including nothing, which is also doing. Doing, not doing is the same. It's doing. Seeking, not seeking is the same. It's seeking. Believing, not believing is the same. Belief. It's all the same. And that's just also an idea. That must have been fun though, eh, Ere? 2 hours, yeah. Are you ready to face some monks? Do you want to come?
Not yet.
It's fun, you know, especially in a room, you know, it feels like an attack. You're attacking them, right? And then when there's this easiness, right, you know, and when there is just this, well, there's nothing really being presented here. There's no truth, there's no thing. And when there is an openness about it, right? There's this kind of like, okay, you know what, it's quite fascinating. But that's very similar, I think, to what you're doing there. It's just like it's a back and forth, right? It's a back and forth, because there is a persistent, you know, that, you know, how can I? So the belief of the belief of, you know, I can do this, is maintaining that belief by personalizing what is being expressed. Even if it's expressed that there's not you, this is nothing personal. Well, how can I do this then? And then nothing becomes personalized. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they were very into the Buddhist teachings.
Yeah, that's what
So
this is
finally they
similar to
said
what I
that,
was doing. Yeah.
yeah, they were saying finally that, okay, thank you. Now we understand better Buddhism, or this, what is
Yeah.
what is the name?
For what?
Was it Zen? Zen? What tradition was it?
Kes see taassünnikuga?
Buddha.
Buddha, yeah, sorry.
What's that again?
Buddha teachings, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Buddha teachings.
That's actually, you know what, there's not much here too, you know, saying, so when they say according to this, according to that, I said, what if there's no according to this? In the you know, in the absence of that, when there is no reference, right? There's no reference. How can you explain this? What if there's no secondhand knowledge? What if knowledge is basically seen as just an appearance, as a made up, you know, tool? What if there are no tools? And they're like, oh.
Yeah, but it was so long time when I just started speaking, and you also know them, and they were like pulling out of answers from Ere, like, what is this?
Yeah.
That who is speaking?
Yeah.
When
Oh yeah.
who is speaking when I am speaking? And then unconditional love, is it unconditional love or oneness?
Yeah.
Or okay, you can say this, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever you like. Then okay.
And you know what's really funny, right? In the story, when there is someone that's being challenged, apparently, right? When they have this held on, they bring 10 years of seeking of baggage, right? And they they expect that to be responded to. But there are really no responses to what already is simple. Right. So there's always going to be this positioning, and they'll attack. They'll be like, they'll compare, you know, they'll be analyzing and everything, but it's pointless, because there's nothing that's being offered, and it's almost trying to recognize something that's not there, or trying to have the aha kind of thing, but it's just what is. And apparently the longer that the speaking happens, there's going to be a lot of, you know, either kind of like, you know, it's a judgment, right? There's a position, you know, it's kind of like, oh, this and this and that, but that's also what is. It's just an appearance. But yeah, it's fun though. when there's so many questions kind of like, appearing, right? When you're in a room full 2-3 hours, or like, oh, done, what I'm saying? Because it's just so instant, right? It's one after the other, one after the other. And um yeah, it's fun though. But thank you, Age. Oh, Raigo too. Hi, Raigo. I like your post, Raigo.
Thanks.
I just wanted to say, I think that's why I just keep laughing, because just the whole, it's just hysterical. I mean,
It's absurd.
it, 40 people, nobody's here, and nobody's,
That's right.
it's like almost like when you stop to talk to somebody, and like you're just like sort of looking right through them, and you bust out laughing, and they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's just really funny. And maybe that's the resonance. I don't know. It's too funny. Just too funny.
It is.
It's so funny. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
Patrice goes, my sister was telling me that she was talking with a friend on Friday who said, deep down, I've realized that I'm very, very shallow. Best post. That's really funny. Going deep to find the shallowness of it all. Hello, Emerson. Is there any significance in the triangles or the pyramids that you usually use for your hats? No, none whatsoever. The design looks cool, so there's no significance to whatever it is. It's not the Illuminati or something like that. That's hilarious. In my merch website, there are just okay. There's a seeming love for design and graphics and stuff like that, and it's just yeah, it's cool. Like the tetrahedron's background, yeah. Talking about meaninglessness and wearing meaningful and meaningful background. There's no meaning to it all, unfortunately. There's no mystery to this. How do you stay happy all the time? There is no choice. It's just happiness seemingly appearing, which is also just a construct, right? It's just what is. It's just what is. There's really no difference aside from a thought. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Breakout room is on and recording is